Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 9 of the Tour Podcast. My name is Austen Dahlquist, and I'm super excited to bring you today's podcast, our first 3-person in-person podcast with my great friends Dan Michalski and Brett Meyer. These two are professional runners, they're dads, but they are amazing friends more than that. Really grateful for them, their faith, and how they live their life. We get into all that and more in today's episode. But before we jump in, just wanted to remind you, check out Sub4 Tour on Instagram, search the Tour Podcast on YouTube, and go to sub4tour.com to check out all your tour needs. Without further ado, let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 9 of the Tour Podcast. My name is Austen Dahlquist, and I'm here with two of my dear friends, our first 2-person, I guess 3-person podcast, 2 guests at the same time, 2 of my dear friends, brothers, Daniel Michalski and Brett Meyer. Gentlemen, how are you doing today?
We are so privileged to be here in the presence of Donkey Kong, Austen Dahlquist. What do you think? What do you think, Brett?
Man, I'm just pumped. We have a great opportunity. We get a race here in California, get to stay with each other here at the Airbnb. It's just going to be a blast. Now we're just missing our boy Paul. He's just down the road, but we'll see him tomorrow.
Well, thank you, boys. Yeah, thank you for joining. You guys have been on the forefront of the tour of when this movement was just starting. You guys were some of the first folks to wear the tour hat. But really excited that we can take the time today to let people hear your story, get to know you, and get inspired from your journeys. And I think we want to back up a little bit to how we met. It's because of Dan right here, Dan Michalski, if you're watching on YouTube, the handsome man to the left of me. And Dan and I know each other. He visited Arkansas in 2018. And that's how we initially met. And then he and I, along with Brett here, navigating the post-college life, just stayed in touch and kind of rekindled our friendship in 2021. And in 2022, Brett needed a place to stay at a meet out here in California. And he gave me Brett's number, and Brett ended up staying with the other member of our group chat now, the Speed Boys. And we just started chatting on a cool down after a race. And I think, was it you, Brett, that made the group text initially? So Brett made a group text, and now, yeah, we're texting that thing every day. And we are just some married dudes trying to navigate the post-collegiate world, which can be kind of crazy. But Dan was the connector for all of us. And yeah, we're super grateful for, at least I'm super grateful for them as friends and for their faith, for how they inspire and encourage me, and really cool stories to the left and to the right of me. But Dan, let's start with you. Talk about kind of where you're from and where you're at right now, and what are you doing?
Thanks, Speed Brother. Yeah, so man, this is fun for me. I mostly grew up in Ohio. Started running late in high school, ran Division II at Cedarville University, was looking for a 5th-year spot, met Austen when I visited Arkansas, ended up going to Indiana. Tried to keep running, COVID happened, got a job in coaching for a couple of years, started running again, got a lot better, had a little Nike deal there for just about 2 years, and then joined the Air Force last year to keep the dream alive and serve the country eventually. Yeah, I've got a wife and 2 kids. I live in Colorado Springs now, just for about 2 years. And today is Military Spouse Appreciation Day, so extra special shout out to my wife Abby. Military spouses have a unique sacrifice that they have to make too, separated from their spouses for significant portions of time, and often raising a family by themselves. For me right now, I'm going to track meets while she's managing the kids. But yeah, she's definitely invested a lot and sacrificed a lot too. So is that a good start?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, well, let me maybe say one more thing really quick, and then I won't be done for the duration of the podcast. But one other thing I want to start on the intro is this. Yeah, it was fun to get to be a part of assembling the Speed Boys. Each of these guys I met at different times and in different ways. And it's an incredible thing that we have so much in common, even though we're from different parts of the country, had different collegiate experiences, but that we're all brothers in Christ and on a tour of our own and united somewhat in our tours. And it's fun to kind of unpack that together. Just in regular conversation, but hopefully in this venue, we'll do a good job of that.
100%. And yeah, Dan he's a 3,000 meter steeplechaser, and also is a amazing runner in other events. But all-star dad, as he mentioned, all-star husband, and a great friend. But Brett, let's hear a little bit about your intro, where you're from, and where you're at now.
Yeah. So my name is Brett Meyer. I went to school at a Division II here at Fort Hays State in Kansas, and I've been there ever since. So I think it's been 8 years, and got pretty decent at running in college, and I really wanted to keep going afterwards, and tried it. COVID hit, and I really kind of got in a funk, but also read the best book, running book out there, Once a Runner, and I got really back into running again. Kind of a weird little thing, but I really just enjoyed it, just running easy miles during COVID. And then right after COVID, started racing again. That's when I connected with Dan at Drake Relays. Coach Mish kind of hooked us up through an email, and I picked him up at his Airbnb. And then 2 weeks later, met Austen, and we've been just good friends ever since. It's been a blast. But a little bit more about me. I train by myself, all in Kansas, out there in the wind. I coach at Fort Hays now, some middle distance and distance kids, and I really enjoy it. Married to my beautiful wife, Kelly, and we just had a kid a month ago, Judah James. So he might be going by JJ, we never know. But life's been good to us there in Kansas. Austen and Dan and Paul have been trying to get us to move for quite some time, but I don't know, maybe someday. But yeah, that's a little bit about me, and we're on this tour together. So
born and raised Kansas, right?
I was born in Nebraska and then raised in Kansas, just down the road. So
yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
And Brett, just like Dan, incredible friend, new dad for him, and awesome husband, and certainly look up to both of them in so many ways. But after college, and this is a question for both of you, after college, why did you decide that running was still something that you wanted to do?
I think to me, I left college on a high note. Every time going to Division II Nationals, I was getting 4th, 2nd, 3rd, 6th, 7th. And finally, my senior year, I won. And I thought there was something there. Like, I just didn't want to leave it right after leaving college. And the year before, my wife she's a sprinter at Fort Hays, and she did that. She just stopped cold turkey right after the national meet. She ran 53:52 in the 400. She's quick. She's faster than me. But she's just done right after that. She's like, I hanged up the spikes. And I don't know, I never told her that at the time, but I was like, I never want to do that. I want to keep testing the limits right after college. And I understand as distance runners, you get better as you get older. I heard so many coaches and people talking about how you're in your prime, you're 28, 30. So I just wanted to keep chasing the dream right after college.
Very cool. Would you say, Brett, that is your tour then, is running, or to run as fast as you can, or what would you say?
Man.
So the tour,
that's a great question.
I'll define it for the people. The tour is pursuing your goals with a rooted and hopeful mindset, and everybody has talent, first of all, and everybody has a calling over their life, and it looks different for everyone. And so what would you say maybe your calling, or what set you on?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, I'm glad you asked this because a friend of mine right after college sent me this post. It was on Kansas Mile Split by Rod Murrow, and the title of it was something about how sports are irrelevant but priceless. And during that time, like I really was like just all in on running, and it could have been an idol in my life. And the whole message is about how, in the grand scheme of things, running is really irrelevant. If you lose or if you get DQ'd or if you run horrible tomorrow, your parents are still going to love you. Your wife's going to love you. Your kids are going to be so happy to see you when you come home. And it's irrelevant because of that. But it's super priceless because running gives you friends. I get to sit here because of running. Like, it's so cool. I get to travel the country. I get to do all these cool things. And that like changed my perspective on running so much. Just how priceless it is. But also, like, I just don't have to dwell on my performances. It doesn't really matter that much. Yeah. So during that time, I wanted to start like a kids running camp during COVID, right after COVID, where time was just, the whole earth was negative and everything was just horrible. I just wanted to bring some light into the world. And we started this camp. First year we called it Heart and Soul Camp, and we just teach kids about Jesus and the good news. And second year we changed the name to Hold Fast Running because there's so much good scripture on holding fast and what that means in our life.
Brett's brand, by the way.
Yeah, so check it out. But yeah, my purpose, my tour is to keep holding fast to the Lord and emboldening others to run the race.
Yeah, I love that, man. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, Brett is a 1,500 meter specialist, also very good at other distances, but he, like me, enjoys the mile and 1,500. Pretty dangerous over the last 300 meters. But Dan, for you with running, same question after you finished. Why did you decide to keep going?
Man, I improved a lot in my 5th year at Indiana. And I continued to believe that I had some real upside. So I was trying to find a way to join a pro club or, just understand what it took to get a sponsorship. And, I had elevated that in my mind pretty high. Really wanting to get that, national title for Indiana, and equating that with a, direct line to, that Nike sponsorship or something, or Adidas or whatever. And I didn't get that. And then, I was able to improve through the summer again and make the US final. And then I got married the next weekend, and we were headed down to Florida, and I didn't really know what I was going to do. And I was kind of uncertain on things, talking with an agent about just how all this works and where I might be able to fit. And with our circumstances as a new married couple, it didn't make sense to totally uproot and go somewhere if we didn't have a lot of support, or so we ended up going back up to Indianapolis, and I could commute down to Bloomington and train with the team a little bit. And that was going well up until COVID. And I got to rabbit for Yard and a Goose and a couple other guys, and I hadn't really raced yet, so I was just chomping at the bit through the indoor season, and then it was cut out. But
you worked during that time? Wasn't it like Walmart?
yeah. So if you want to get into it more, I was working in real estate up until the kind of economic whirlwind. So I started working at Walmart, and then when I was there for like a week, I found out with my wife that we were going to be having our daughter Daily in 9 months or whatever. So things got really real, and that's when I started to pursue a full-time with benefits job in coaching. Found it in Texas, and I kind of shelved the running thing. I was super into disc golf, and I didn't really have a vision for what things could look like for a while, but by the orchestration of God, Mark Mish agreed to take me on to coach me.
Yeah, how did you find him? Because Brett mentioned earlier he was the one that connected you guys.
Yeah, so I've known him for a long time through the grapevine. A lot of mutual connections.
He's in action, right? Or...
Yeah, and just running coaches in D2, and
is that how he knows you? Because D2.
Yeah. So it was actually Nick Willis with Tracksmith who encouraged me to get a coach, get running again. Hey man, you've got an Olympic trials qualifying mark still that's grandfathered from the year prior. Like, are you going to use it? You're going to be a part of our amateur support program, and that was a big impetus. So thanks Nick. He's an awesome older brother in the faith and in the sport. That's like a guy that we've all looked up to. So what a privilege to know him. And so I started there, and he knows Mish, and they used to room together back in the day, believe it or not. And I threw that out there. Hey, what do you think if I ask Mish to coach me? He's like, yeah, you should. He could help you. So yeah, that's what we did. I got running. I was getting pretty fit, just running solo in Texas, and coaching my team and doing my workouts before or after theirs, and figuring out everything on the fly. So I guess we should maybe transition to the what's my tour?
Yes. Yeah. That. But I want to ask another question.
Sure.
You mentioned you were straight line to winning NCAAs and then maybe signing a deal before we get to your tour, but it was the last water jump that you fell, correct? And so you were high. Oh, actually, turn that off. I think you were pretty locked in to win until 200 meters to go, or 150 meters to go. And then what'd you end up in that race?
I ended up seventh. Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
Oh man,
I'm sure people would like to hear kind of how.
Sure. Yeah. So I was betting on myself for the win.
Yeah.
I was pretty nervous. I had, like I said, really built up this as a dealer or like a deal or no deal type thing. Like if I go and win, then I'm going to have a professional contract. Yeah. And if I don't, then I'm going to go home sad. And so, I was sending it, man. I mean, with two water jumps to go, I popped out into the lead over Oklahoma State and Canada's Ryan Smeaton. And I just decided I'd take it. I just caught a good one on the water jump, as I often do. Not always, but often. And I just decided to take it. And so that was at that track about 750 meters out, or no, pardon me, it was like 550 meters out, I think. Yeah, 550. And just tried to squeeze it home, and the stands were rocking there in Texas, and with 200 meters to go, I started to hear footsteps, and I was trying to stay relaxed, and Stephen Fahey was charging hard, joined me coming into the last water jump, and I caught a toe on the barrier itself, and as my leg swung through, I just got twisted and off balance, so that when I landed, I took a little spill and struggled to get up efficiently, and the pack started coming on me, and then we see Steven in front of us fall on the last dry barrier, and we're, our eyes go big again, and he was able to scramble up and still get the win, and I brought it in for seventh, but that was a tough one, man. Yeah. No regrets on sending it, and when I did and how I did, it's just crazy thing.
Do you think you're better because of it? What do you think you learned from that?
Yeah, I mean, you can, make it pretty symbolic or even spiritual. And I think you can be right in doing so. To go so far as saying something like, I maybe wasn't ready yet, or that, you know, it was a not yet type of situation with God or not you or whatever. And yeah, it was really humbling. And I had idolized that opportunity for a running contract, thinking that it would just equivalate, you know, with that win. You know, I think that it certainly kept me hungry, with, you know, some unfinished business, wanting to get better, to perform at higher heights and, elevate what I've done and, all of that. So yeah, it's definitely served me in some positive fuel, and I've had other opportunities for that, for better or for worse.
Yeah. No, I think it can be logical to say a steeplechase national championship would probably equate to a pro contract. And so it is a big sliding doors moment. And we could talk for a long time, I think, about some of the unfairness in running. And we know a lot of people, I think you guys included, that deserve money in the sport. And so it is crazy though. But yeah, maybe you were being prepared for something better, or what you have now. And, you know, maybe you wouldn't have been able to meet the people that you did or experience what you did. And because I want to get into how you were training for your first Olympic trials and kind of that whole scenario. But first I think we want to hear about what your tour is.
Man, you know, I can't help but think about my tour as like more than just running, and more than just you know, trying to inspire somebody else, or more than just trying to accomplish goals I'm setting out for. It's kind of all of that all at once. You know, I want to pursue something that is a noble pursuit, you know, that's not a pipe dream, that I'm not deceiving myself or anybody else into thinking this is a good investment, but that it truly is.
Yeah.
And not deceive myself or anybody else that I'm in some kind of inspiration, but that I would live and act with such integrity that it really is. And not for my sake, but for somebody else's encouragement, and in an even more impactful way, for God's sake, for God's glory, that they would, that someone would see something that I did or said, or a way that I did or said something that gave them pause to think, what's uncommon about that, and not that I just want to be countercultural for countercultural's sake, but that it points to something greater than just myself, than just my vain, selfish pursuit, but that it's truly a mission from God. Not that I'm some conquistador or a crusader, you know, but that like God has given this gift to me. I want to make the very most of it. I want to pursue it in a healthful way and in a helpful way.
That's a word.
Yeah, right. Come on. So maybe I'll shelf it for now. You know, it's a working definition or concept, but yeah, man, I'm just so glad that you have the passion to try to share these stories, and that you think we have good stuff to share.
I absolutely agree with what you said. I mean, with what both you said about your tours, and mine is really similar in that, and running in itself is a very selfish sport, and it's so easy to make an idol of our times and make an idol of how we're feeling and what we're doing. And we live in this bubble too, which maybe some people listening know, or some people listening don't know, but the professional running world is a bubble. A lot of people know each other, and you're never really on top, and you're always comparing yourself to what other people are doing, and also doing something solely for yourself. I believe just doesn't stand, and this life is so much bigger than just us and what we can do. And so I completely agree with what both you guys said as a fellow believer, but then also about that it's not about us. It's about being there for others and helping others and inspiring others. But on that vein, Brett, you do a lot of your stuff alone, and you also coach yourself, correct?
Yep. Everything alone.
How is that? People are probably wondering. You're in the middle of nowhere of Kansas. Hayes is a very nice town. It's on the way to Kansas City. Nice coffee shop.
Yeah, there's not much there.
There's a nice coffee shop.
Yes. Breathe Coffee House.
Yep.
And scooters.
But people are probably wondering, for context, Brett is one of the elite 1,500 meter runners in the country, but he's training in Kansas alone, and he also coaches himself. So how do you stay motivated by doing that, and how do you do it in general?
Man, that's a good question. I ask this to myself and my wife all the time, like, how do I keep doing it? And I think it just does come down to discipline, but also like we talk about here is like you have to have a bigger purpose in running. Like if it was just for fast times, it'd be really hard to get out the door every day, twice a day. And so you have to be running for a bigger purpose if it's for people or family. And that's big for me is my family and children, and just like the youth, just sharing just my story with people. And that's how I get out the door. But it really is tough doing it all on my own. Honestly, this whole year, my training's been great, but I literally make up my workouts the day of. It's the craziest thing you'll ever see. And most pro runners will say, you are a lunatic. Because I will sometimes look at Strava, sometimes just be like, oh, it's 7 by 1K and some 30-second reps at the end. Like I just make it up on my warm up. That's how I do most of my training.
I guess that's a way to not stress about a session if you until you warm up.
It's crazy. And sometimes like I'm doing a 30-minute tempo and I'll cut it and I'll be like, okay, I'm going to do 3 times 10 minutes tempo. Like if you had a coach, you stick to that rep, like what he says. And I just literally change it up so much. It's wild, but gets the job done. And I'm just like I'm big into like, you just got to be consistent and showing up every day. And if you do that, you're staying healthy. You're going to be all right. And you got to have your mind in it. I'm so big into like sports psychology and how the mental side of running is so much more important than the physical, to be honest. You got to be fit, but you got to be mentally fit as well.
Yeah. Do you think all that training alone has sharpened your mind?
Oh yeah. So I make myself believe that. So I'm out on a dirt road, 30-mile-an-hour wind. I'm telling myself this is helping me. No one else is doing this. Yeah, I kind of trick my brain in that way, and I think that's kind of that helps me a lot.
Yeah. I think any elite athlete, I believe any elite athlete has a level of naiveness, because we have to convince ourselves that we can do something almost always before we do it. I mean, there's some performances that people have that are, maybe they didn't think that they could do it, but we have to believe in ourselves first. And
true.
I'm so big personally on the positive affirmation side of things when I'm deep in a performance setting. But yeah, we have to allow ourselves to go there first before our body can go there. And so I know for me, at least personally, I couldn't coach myself. And also I can hardly do an easy run without people. Maybe it's my personality or just not wanting to attack a run alone. And so it's really cool that you're still able to do all these things at a high level. And I mean, you know your body too, and you have been running for a long time, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I would rather be at the track most days.
Yeah. No, I think everyone does similar stuff too. You got to get your strength work in. You got to get your speed work in. Long runs. Everyone's doing the same thing, but just different. So yeah, I just kind of steal stuff from people too. I think that's all coaches do anyways. They think they're making up their own stuff, but everyone's been doing the same thing since Arthur Lydiard.
Yeah.
But another thing to answer that first question, like why do I keep getting out the door? What motivates me? I really, truly believe it's a part of this group. We call ourselves the Speed Boys. It started out Speed Boys and Dan on our group chat because
Dan.
and Steeple Dan, because Dan was steeplechase. We were all 15 guys, and for what it's been 3 or 4 years of that chat.
2 years. 2.5.
3. It's almost 3. Yeah.
No, it was 2022 when it started. Yeah, Mount Sac
Really?
22. Yeah,
Dang. Okay. Seems like a lifetime.
yeah.
But but yeah, there's not a week that goes by that we're not messaging each other, and I truly give credit to like you guys that like that's why I still run. Right when I started going to these meets, I was literally had a hotel to myself. I didn't talk to anyone at the meets. I didn't know anyone, and I was like nervous. I didn't like it at all. I was so alone, and I wanted to be home every time I went to a pro race. And then I met these guys, and like I look forward to going to meets now.
Yeah, man.
I still miss my wife, and I want to be with my wife and son, but like it's something to look forward to with my friends.
Yeah.
So.
Community is what it's all about. I mean, not what it's all about, but it's such a huge beast.
Amen.
I mean, yeah. And that's what a lot of what I like about the running community, and a lot of my personal mission toward the running community is making it more inclusive and connecting people and letting people hear their stories, because just like you guys, they have amazing stories. Yeah, just doing life with community is so much better. And you ask people all the time, and I would share the same, like, what do you miss the most about your high school team, your college team, or really even anything that you're a part of where you have people that you're with is, they just miss hanging out with those people. It's not the achievements, it's not the places that they win, it's just being able to hang out with them. And I think the shared suffering that we get to share over text, and then also at these meets, really brings us together. But
Amen.
Yeah, I mean the community certainly of you guys and of running certainly motivates me, inspires me, and yeah, it just makes it so much more fun, because I would much rather be chatting with you guys or running with you guys than, like you said, be alone and watching TV, stressing about a race or something. Instead of like fostering lifelong friendships. But Dan, Brett was talking about some of his training alone, and you still do things alone primarily, but I want to talk about 2021. So that was a pretty special year for you, and you were coaching, as you said, and you were training late, and you signed a deal with Nike right before the trials, correct? Yeah. And yeah, for people that don't know, Dan ended up 4th at the Olympic trials in 2021 in the steeple. But what's even more inspiring is what led up to that, and yeah, kind of what you've continued to do in a way since then. Kind of talk about that build up to the trials, and then if you want to hear Dan's immediate thoughts, or you go on YouTube and you search Daniel Michalski 4th place steeplechase Olympic trials. It's one of my favorite videos because it's so good in that people always want to hear what the 4th place person has to say, and I just think Dan does an excellent job of giving perspective to what would be a heartbreaking place. But I think there's also so much to celebrate in that. Even still coming 4th, even though it is, the heartbreaking place. But like we've kind of mentioned earlier, there's so much more to it than just running, like just outside of where you place or how fast you run. But please talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, so I was training 100% solo in Longview, Texas. It's a hillier piney, woodsier corner of the state, close to Louisiana. Anyways, I was there in the humidity and heat. Either before dawn or after dinner in bed for my daughter, I was going out and hitting sessions and not telling coach until the next day how they went, because that whole day I hadn't done it until 9 or 10 o'clock. I was, doing recruiting calls and visits and, coaching my very young, very fledgling cross country team. They're getting started that first year. It was tough. And it was, if you know me for 5 seconds, I'm taking life pretty hard and fast, and it was all coming at me, and I didn't really know what to expect in these workouts, and I was just trying to apply the best of what I could, and I didn't know what other people were doing, and I didn't have a GPS watch yet. I wasn't on Strava hardly. And I didn't have the Speed Boys group chat yet to give me more of an idea of what other people could do. I was just sending it. A lot of fartlek-based training that I would do on, loop routes that every rep was on a slightly different terrain. And, I ended up getting pretty fit that way. And, my fitness was a mystery, but, I showed up at Drake Relays for my opener, and Brett takes me to the race, and, I ran a PB and a Drake Relays meet record, my season opener that year, and I knew we were on to something for sure. And leading up to the Olympic trials, I'd never done altitude training or anything, and I had only raced a couple guys. Had another breakthrough race at the first real big meet at Mount Sac since they reopened it, and had run the Olympic standard, and I was counting myself among the people that could make the team. Tried to run like it, tried to run really smart, kind of disappear, just be off the beat right at, 4th, 5th place, and, make my move when I need to late. And, I hung in there. I hung in pretty dang close, in the Olympic trial final with was in like 5th place with 300 meters to go. Just looking up at the Jumbotron and like, what am I doing in 5th place, man? Like, if I could just like get a guy or two, I could be on this team. And, so I got one, and I think on the water, I think it was Isaac Updike. Sorry, Isaac. And then,
he had a world champs team last year.
He'll be all right. And then, I was hard charging coming into the last dry barrier with Mason Furlick. And I had a pretty clean run at it, but just struggled to lift and sprint the last 60 meters or so to the finish. And he took the 3rd spot, and I was a half second off. And my post race interview was kind of funny. I was what they dubbed the happiest fourth placer at the trials that year, maybe ever. I don't know. But it's true that I was really grateful for that opportunity, for performing as well as I did, for all the improvement I saw over that year, from thinking my running career was dead to it being alive and more so than ever. And, just getting the chance to run in the Nike Pro vest. And, it was all coming at me quick. I just had our daughter, that winter, and, I didn't know that it would lead to where I'm at now, but it's been a lot, man. I don't want that race to be like my sole career defining moment. It'd be great if it were, oh, you got 4th place at the Olympics. Like that would be even cooler. Maybe even more heartbreaking. I don't know. We'll see if I get that chance to feel that. But gosh, I want to make that dang team. I want to make that team. I believe I'm made to be a steeplechaser, and the times would show too that I'm not made to be anything else.
Dan has run 3:57 in the mile, and we don't want to minimize 4th place in the Olympic trials, though. It's still an insane achievement for sure. But as we mentioned, as runners, we we hold ourselves to the highest standard and are hard on ourselves. But I want to get into two things from that. First was how were you staying motivated in such an unorthodox training situation? People probably want to know, like, first of all, how'd you do it and how to stay motivated? Because not only were you had a newborn and you were working probably more than full-time job, and then also training at this level that was an Olympic level, essentially.
Man, I was just, I'm not sure if I have a great answer for that. Like, there's not going to be a real clean cut soundbite to take from this. I was getting after it, man. I mean, I was trying to give my best effort in training sessions and, heed the wisdom of hard days hard and easy days easy. Staying relaxed about running in general mentally. Trying not to lose myself too much to the comparison game, which we all have struggled with at various times. It's certainly like motivating when it's like, hey, I'm on a business trip when you're going to a meet, treating it as such, at least, when the gun goes off. I've drugged some people to some fast times, being that guy who's on a mission and setting out the pace. And I've been the guy that's been strung along, and that period was pretty cool. I mean, it was just like all kind of uncharted territory. It was a very different training style than I had encountered up until that point in my running career. So I was pretty open to how that would make me develop, and I think I got a lot stronger aerobically, just doing longer fartlek sessions, stuff that took 35 to 40 minutes, but was really concentrated with good quality work, and just kind of nicely packaged that way. So, I mean, I was just doing a lot of threshold and hills, man. Not a whole lot of fancy track work, not fancy VO2. I would touch that stuff occasionally, put spikes on occasionally, but really very few times before just the races. Yeah. I raced into shape a little bit, but man.
So you had put running to the side. Nick Willis kind of lit that fire under you, and you still had the qualifier from the year before, correct?
Yeah.
And so was this just more a time where you thought, okay, I have a qualifier and I'm gonna give it a shot, kind of thing? That's, you were just kind of leaning into what motivated you?
I think it was really special to have an affiliation with Tracksmith. Like that was a cool opportunity. It affected me as much or more than maybe as a lot of other people that had that opportunity, because I didn't have anybody to train with. I wasn't already a part of some club that just needed like a little bit of support or a singlet to wear. I was pretty isolated, and that was a neat thing, Nick used some Tracksmith funds to put me and Mason in a hotel the weekend of Mount Sac that year, where I broke out and ran the Olympic standard. That was a huge thing, and to have that level of support up front was really cool. And so I'm grateful for that, even though, that was just a period of a handful of months that I was under the Tracksmith umbrella. Like I said, or I tried to allude to before, it was a discovery that was coming at me fast. I wondered how good I could get. I wondered, if I could just get fitter. I know that I'm a good hurdler. So if I can stay in this race and be with these guys at the bell, then all bets are off. I really had that mindset. I've had that mindset at other times and come up short, or shorter. And that's tough. That's really tough. When you've kind of been there and achieved pretty well, and then to to not quite have it, especially overall an entire last lap, as was the case the last two USAs, where it really kind of bonked out. So, yeah, man.
Yeah, I definitely want to shout out Tracksmith, and they've really helped a bunch of athletes, and I think people don't realize the financial stress that comes on to distance runners or just runners in general, because really only the top percentage of runners have deals that are sustainable and can be lived off of, and many more have deals that they can't live off of and that they need to work alongside them. And so having that opportunity for you, if you didn't have that money, maybe you wouldn't have been able to go to that meet, and that could have been totally different for you. And I've heard a lot of stories like that. So I definitely want to shout out Tracksmith for stepping in the gap for you there. And yeah, I think people don't realize just how much of a burden it can be to get around the country and to stay somewhere and to also try to perform well. It's a lot of stress leading up to it, and along with trying to run faster than you ever have. But I think that the second question I had with what you were talking about was your fourth place finish. Was your reaction similar to nationals in college, or how were you able to kind of process that and continue going forward?
Yeah, maybe somewhat similar. I, was still huffing and puffing and had a microphone shoved in front of my face after that race too. So, you're kind of just trying to process very shortly after when oxygen isn't going to the brain the best. But yeah, it was a somewhat similar feeling. A dream nearly realized, and trying to piece together what happened and what could I have done differently to not miss the target. But yeah, man, I mean, yeah, both of those things they are kind of defining things, but they're lessons, and I'm so glad that I've been able to get back on the horse and continue to pursue this dream and have the support from coaches, my wife, my employers at various times, and now under the Air Force World Class Athlete Program umbrella. Like it's a dream, and this is as much real support as I've ever had, facilitating my hopeful qualification. And we'll see. I mean, it would be really cool to string it out another Olympic cycle. But yeah, right now, my focus is to try to make it happen this summer. And it's crazy that I think we're 6 weeks out from today for the steeplechase prelim at USA's. So it's kind of bonkers how quick this is coming on us. And, we're getting the heat of racing season, and trying to figure out, all right, how is it again that I exactly need to qualify, and what do I need to do to make this team, and position myself to make the final, and then be Olympic eligible. And yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I'm on the edge of my seat. This weekend getting to race a 1500, which is arbitrary for me in a sense, other than a fitness marker and just some speed work in the form of a race, and then coming back to pace a steeple should be a good rhythm opportunity, dress rehearsal for the real go next week.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that's really inspiring. And people definitely, want to hear your perspective. And I think it's something that is awesome. Not I think it is super cool that you've been able to achieve so much. And, also, from the outside fall short a few times, but that it doesn't define you as well, and that you're still called to it. And you're stepping up to that, and you're stepping up to the opportunity, whether you at the end of your career, whether you're an Olympian or not, or whether you're a U.S. team member or not, which you have made the U.S. team for Pan Ams. But it's super noble and cool that you continue to lean into your gift and lean into your calling and not be discouraged by falling short. I won't say that it's a failure at all, but the tour, one of the big reasons why I started it is because through conversations with people that I know and love, and just people on the street, when I ask them how they're doing or what are they doing, and they don't love what they're doing, they wish they weren't doing it. And people give up on their dreams a lot, and they give up on their passions. And it's so cool for the both of you, how you find a way to lean into it. And a lot of people think that it's impossible to do that. But as you've shared, Dan and Brett, we want to hear from you more on it. But it's certainly possible to still do something you love at a high level, even if you are maybe hamstrung a little bit by a child or a marriage, or not hamstrung, but
I do not endorse that.
But it looks different to be, to be a professional runner. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be a perfect, lined out thing. You're not eating avocados every day and putting your feet up. Like you're doing a ton of things. I mean, Brett, you're a coach, and you've raced before, standing like 10 hours a day coaching and then racing that night. Talk about your situation a little bit. So you coach, and so you're at the highest level in the US for your event, but then you're also coaching kids at the same time, to try to maximize their potential.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm at the top of the United States, but
he won.
He won. Wiggled myself in there, but yeah, coaching and running is interesting because I was a grad assistant right out of college, and I just really struggled with coaching right outside of college because I was training with the kids or the athletes, and they were my teammates, and I just wanted selfishly to train with them, but I also needed to be their coach. I did that for 2 years, and then finally I was like, dude, I need to help these students and be their coach, and I need to learn what my philosophies are as a coach. And so that's been really fun to learn and grow as a coach and a person. But it has been really difficult chasing this dream and still pursuing coaching, and then coaching doesn't pay the bills, so I have to do another job where I'm working 40 hours a week at the school sitting in a desk on my feet all the time too. And it's just difficult to process. But when you have a goal and a vision, you just go after it, and you'll work around it. You'll wake up at 6 a.m. or you'll run at 9 p.m. like Dan, and just kind of figure it out.
How do you balance that well?
My wife, probably.
Yeah.
She gets me through it. But yeah, it's difficult to balance because before having our son, I'm really on a time schedule. So I'll wake up every day at 6:40. Coffee is brewing at 6:50. I'm drinking 3 cups of coffee and out the door at 7:40. And I get my 8 miles in, and I'm back in the house at 8:40. And I shower, and I'm at work at 9:30. It was to a T that for 2 years. And now it's not. Now I'm just trying to find an hour here and there to figure out where I need to run. And then practice is happening, and then back to work. So it is difficult, but I think when you're just motivated inwardly, you're going to get after it and get it done.
Do you feel called to coaching along with running?
Yeah. I told a friend this before, I haven't pursued a big coaching job outside of college since running, because I feel like I need to quit running before I really pursue that, because like you said, running is such a selfish sport, and I do have to think about myself, and I have to get my training in, which sounds horrible. I have to go get mine before the athletes. It's terrible, and I literally think about it all the time about my athletes. Like, I wish I could give them more. So that's why just being an assistant cross country coach, like, I really truly enjoy that position, because I'm an assistant and they get to run with me, and I get to share just insight of professional running with these students. And that's a cool relationship that I get to have with them, because I run with them on easy days. But yeah, I do want to be a coach here in the future, the next 4 or 5 years. But I think it's going to have to wait until I'm done running.
Yeah, that's cool. And I want to focus on, well, first I want to say that it must be super cool to have a coach like you and a coach like you, Dan. I would, as a college student, I would be thriving. I mean, eating up everything you guys say. And I think it's easy for us to sit here, for maybe you guys to maybe not realize the impact that we have. You know, we're not winning the Olympics, or we're not, you know, making buku bucks or anything in running, but to see someone that's making it, and especially for your students, your kids, that you went through that same school, that same program, and you've made it to this high level. Yeah. That's so cool, and I think that's what it's all about. But you said when you have a vision, then it's easier. When you have a goal and a vision, how are you given that vision, or how did that vision come to you?
Man, that's a great question. I'm actually not really focused on a whole lot of my goals and like my vision of what I want to do in the sport. I'm really focused on like the process. Like, you guys hear about this stuff all the time, but I'm just not really putting my goals down and I have to get these. I literally just want to focus on what I do every day. So it's the little things that add up. And so basically I'm just more process oriented. I'm not really like just going after this vision, and I'm just not like, I have to achieve these goals to be a success.
Yeah.
I think success is just getting after it, and I'm really invested in the process.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah, and I think that's a great place to be, because you can only control what you're doing
Absolutely.
at that moment, and achieving a goal isn't going to satisfy your heart and soul.
True.
And also, when you're living a success oriented or achievement oriented life, I think I believe it's just a weak foundation, and you're really selling yourself short from what you could be doing. But
absolutely,
how do you frame it, Dan? When it comes to like goals, do you have like tangible goals, or is it more just trying to get the most out of yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely chased clear objectives at various times in my career, you know, trying to get that elusive sub 4 mile eventually. Yeah. But, you know, that game never stops. You know, at this level, it's like, all right, well, do you have the Olympic standard, or do you have the Olympic trials standard, or do you have the world ranking? Like, those are like, you know, numerical values, you know, to like, all right, you can pretty objectively see, all right, do you qualify or not? Are you eligible to even be selected or not?
Yeah.
If you have a contract, you know, did you get that bonus? Did you get that PR or the time bonus, or the chance to be re-signed? And frankly, you know, at the end of 2022 for me, I was pretty frustrated by that. I didn't PR that year, and nor did I last year. And I have intents on doing so this year. But yeah, I mean, you can struggle with injury. You can beat your head against the wall in training while injured or whatever, and try to force something to happen. You can take the race by the horns and try to do that yourself. And as you guys well know, if you're trying to force things in this sport, like I don't think that's how it works.
I think that's a word for life in general.
Yeah, right. Yeah, if you're trying to manipulate your situation, I think as Brett alluded to, focusing on the pieces that make up a beautiful, whole, whatever. It's a composite, right?
Yeah.
So whatever the parts are to the whole, are you doing those things that are requisite to that level of success?
Yeah.
Whatever your achievement is that you're going for. So, I try to dwell on that too, and I haven't always done it well. Framing motivation to get out the door when it's hard, when it hurts, when it's the second run of the day, when it's when it's the umpteenth rep of the workout. When you're doing it uphill both ways, windy, snowy, by yourself,
like our dads,
with hecklers there or something. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's tough. But gosh, yeah, I love to think about that stuff, and I think that I mean, each of us, we've been running
15 years,
a decade or more. Yeah, for me, I just hit a decade. This is my 10th track season, I think, or I just crossed a decade.
How many do you have?
I only had 8.
Wow, I'm at 15. 15 years of running.
Crazy. Yeah.
High school.
Yeah.
Oh, I was counting my senior year of high school because that was my own.
I was counting middle school.
That was my only track season in high school. Anyways, so I like to. I mean, I like to think about those things, and of course we know metrics. Like we know when we're fit, probably if we were able to hit a crusher of a session.
Yeah.
I mean, since we've been in the game this long, we've skinned the cat a couple of different ways. We've gotten rewarded maybe when we shouldn't have, when we weren't doing things maybe in the most wholesome way, mentally. I mean, how we were approaching things, and then we've got the hard, good lessons. Really, ultimately, when we had stuff propped up a little loftier than we should have, or more forced, or whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot of metaphors for life in running, but I think going off of what both you guys mentioned, it's a moving goalpost with running and with life. It's never enough. I mean, we know, or you at least hear of the billionaires, maybe soon to be trillionaires. It's never enough. It's never enough possessions, or it's never enough money, and
$1 more, baby.
Yeah,
Just kidding.
More money, more problems. But I mean, even somebody that breaks the world record, it's like, oh, what are they going to do next? And it's like, maybe we know people that are, near that level, and that doesn't necessarily make you happy. I fully believe it doesn't, and that's something that, I think is, when I broke 4 for the first time, I was a 4 flat man for 6 years, and I think all I wanted to do was break 4, and I got so injured, and I had an eating disorder and struggled mightily with anxiety, and I really think God was preparing me to break 4 in an elegant way, honestly, because if I would have done it when I was 19, I would have made it about myself and not about Lord or the people around me, and it's much bigger than me. But then after I broke 4 and my name's on the list and I have a tree in the forest, it's like, is this really what it's all about? This really doesn't, at the end of the day, this doesn't really matter, and now 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, I do almost anything to run 359.99, but now I'm upset when I run 356, and it's like, what is that? Like, that's messed up, and I really try personally to zoom out. Brian and I talked about this in another episode of the podcast, but when we're doing hard reps on the track, and it's like, man, there's nowhere I'd rather be. I could be in an accounting office in Dallas right now. No offense to anyone that's doing that, but it's like sometimes we lose, why we're doing it. And like I truly love running for many reasons. And it's like, man, in the middle of this workout, this sucks, but I would rather be nowhere else. And then, like you alluded to earlier, Brett, we get to come out to LA and hang out with our friends and run in a circle. Like that's crazy to me. It just kind of puts me in this place of like gratefulness. Like, yeah, maybe I'm never going to win the Olympics. I'm never going to be Jakob Ingebrigtsen, but I get to run to see how fast I can go, and I'm not running for my life, and I get to go to cool places with cool people. And so that's something that that I was really thinking about when you were talking there, Dan. But I lost my train of thought a little bit because I wanted another question. I can edit that out. I know we're getting close, or we've got an hour. Is there something specific you guys wanted to leave anybody else with? That cook on them.
Yeah, Dan and I need to say something, I think, here. We talked about this today, but Austen, I think the tour might turn into like some management like program soon.
Yeah.
Austen here, he takes care of everyone. He gets the Airbnbs, the food,
he foots the bill.
the hotels, all the stuff. What else does he do for us? He connects everyone together.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, man. I think Austen's going to be literally an agent someday. I don't even know if you've thought about it.
He doesn't know anything about contracts, though.
He doesn't know anything about contracts, but he loves people. And
pay him more.
Yeah, pay him more. pay the runners, pay the distance runners. But
oh man,
yeah, man, he's taking care of us every trip. It's been a blast. I gotta say that.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys, yeah, here's what we have. I mean, we should, yeah, honestly, this is our chance to talk about this character in the middle of us.
No.
Well, I mean, if you're a listener of this podcast, chances are you know Austen and appreciate his nicknames for everyone and his lingo that is so hip. It's like I'm talking to a high schooler. I don't even know.
High school at least.
Yeah. One cooler than me. I don't even understand. I don't even know what he's saying.
High school graduation.
I just try to throw random words at him. What's up on the flip flop beach ball, dude? And
legend, goat.
Yeah, something like,
Guru.
hey wizard. Anyways, but I mean, to Brett's point, like, I mean, it's hilarious. Austen is a great connector of people. He's a legend of a travel agent for himself and others. He's pretty quick about Venmo requests. He does not shy away from that, but I think he's been burned a couple of times. So, hey, if you're listening to this and you burned Austen on a Venmo request, you owe him. Probably, chances are you owe him. He keeps accounts. I'm just kidding. But yeah, Austen is he's an okay 2-on-2 basketball player.
This is not complimentary at all.
Just a little frail. But I had to put him through the blender recently. Yeah, what else do you want to talk about, Austen? Now that we've hijacked your podcast.
Okay, before we go, I do want to know two things or not maybe two things, but just the best advice that you've been given and the best advice you can give to our listeners. Whoever wants to start. I can edit this too. So.
Best advice.
Best advice you can give, yeah. Or best advice you can give. You could just give one of those.
Can I?
Yeah.
You go, Brett, if you've got something.
Yeah, I think the best advice I've gotten actually from a book I read. I can't remember the book now, but it's a children's book. And the quote goes, It is only in the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. So, like Austen said just a little bit ago, like, yeah, with like we can go see and chase the money and the riches and fame of running, but what is essential in this life is invisible to the eye. So it's our character. It's the way we treat people. It's sharing joy and light to others when they're depressed and going through something, and or just encouraging people running. Like, just that is such an important thing, and that's the essential things in life, because there's so many students, there's so many kids and older people that are going through something, and if you can just encourage them, that stuff's so much more important than anything we can do. We can go chase scholarships and running fast and doing all these cool things that we get to do, which is awesome. But what is essential is who we are as people, and what we're doing for the kingdom for Jesus. You know, he died on the cross to save us. He saved us. We're sinners, and he went and died on the cross for us. And what's essential is giving back to what Jesus has done for us.
I love that. Thank you. What about you, Dan?
A couple of things come to mind. Rudyard Kipling's "If" poem is such a banger of a poem, as the kids might say. Maybe Austin would say that. I don't know.
Absolute fire, probably.
Yeah, it's drippy or something. Give that one a look. I'm not going to read it for you right now, but it has a lot of really good wisdom, and in a palatable format. What makes him in, and it's an inspiring read with goals that I want to be like, and I think that they also are congruent with Christ and his teachings. And when you just think about, it's the greatest advice, the greatest, the superlative thing, makes me think about when Jesus is asked what the greatest commandment is. And the Pharisees are trying to just like trap him in some sort of controversy or whatever, some blasphemy, but he kind of jukes it on them and
crosses them up.
Yeah, he crosses them. Yeah, Jesus crosses them up like I did to Austin on the basketball court.
No comment.
Anyways, Jesus says to them, to love the Lord your God and to love your neighbor as yourself. And those two, supreme commandments, they stand above the rest. And every other thing on earth and in our hearts can kind of fall in those categories. So it's like a daunting or humbling thing, all-encompassing thing. But if how we are living, acting, speaking, are accomplishing those two things, then I think that's a pretty thorough filter from which to sort your life, and one that I'm aspiring to, and by no means flawlessly achieving. In fact, quite low on that scale, if it were.
None of us ever will.
But I think taking a good look at what he says there is a good place to start on some solid advice.
I love that, and both of you guys kind of hit on it. Yeah, it's loving. I fully endorse loving others, and that's just what Jesus did. He wasn't judgmental. He wasn't hateful. He didn't make anyone follow him. He ate with them, healed them, and said that they could follow him if they wanted. And we were talking about before this started, the loving yourself thing gets a little twisted, and you have to love yourself, but you don't have to think about yourself that much. You can still have the confidence to believe in yourself and love yourself. But where maybe it gets twisted is when you're thinking about yourself less, and is not where it gets twisted. Where you should lean toward is think about yourself less and think about others more. But a fun one to end it. I know we've been going for a while. I could ask you guys more fun questions, but the final question I ask everyone on the podcast is, if you had a quirky feature for a future home, what feature would you choose? Brett, you go first.
Man, it would be like a slide, like 2-story house with a cool slide system for my kids and for me to go down. I think that would be the best thing ever.
Like in Blank Check. Have you seen that movie?
Yes. Yeah. So I would just be sliding down. We'd be playing all day in that house with the slide. Yeah.
Very cool. What about you, Dan?
Man, I'm gonna cop out and talk about one that my wife has imagined. It's like it's a 360, like imagine like a lighthouse kind of topper to your house. I don't know if it would be a kind of off to one side, like its own kind of castle, or like a Victorian style, like, cylindrical shape. But that would be really neat, and have like a little tower on one end of the house that sits above it all, and 360 windows, and maybe, just as like a little book study or something, like a library. Not that I want to read, but it's just kind of peaceful to be surrounded by some books. I don't know, but super cool, especially if you live in a beautiful place and, catch a sunset or sunrise up there with your wife. I mean, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think Daly or JoJo or number 3 would take over that room pretty quick.
Yeah, it would turn into Princess and whatever, Princess in Distress games every day.
Yeah. What's number 3's name actually? Do we have one yet?
Those that don't know, he has a third child due in September.
Yeah, late August, maybe September. We'll see. We have a couple in the queue. But yeah, we're not gonna find out the sex of the baby until birthday. So we have a couple names on deck. Maybe
my bet's Dan Jr.
Oh, that would be cool. I don't think I can swing that.
Place your bets in the chat.
Yeah, believe it or not, my wife suggested and likes the name Miles for a boy, and Macy for a girl. Both of them have good meanings. I forget what Miles means at the moment, but Macy means weapon of the Lord.
Let's go.
And that's pretty epic.
Did Miles just mean running miles?
Nah, it wasn't my idea though, dude.
Anyway, Dan, Brad, thank you so much for taking the time. An absolute honor just to be y'all's friend, just to know you. Grateful to be on this journey with you, and I hope everyone got some good inspiration out of this. I can edit that out, but just so grateful for y'all and here for you, rooting for you, and just excited for what's to come, whatever it is.
Appreciate you, man. I think we got to make this stick. This is a nickname I gave Austen. His Instagram handle is Dalquesting.
Yeah.
So his nickname from me is Dalky Kong. So let's make that stick. Appreciate you, man.
Go Hogs, I guess.
Thank you so much again for listening to today's episode of the podcast. I hope it left you inspired, motivated, and wanting more. The tour is about pursuing your goals with a rooted and hopeful mindset. My name is Austen Dahlquist, and let's continue this journey together. Reach out to us on Instagram, Sub4Tour. Search the Tour Podcast on YouTube, or go to sub4tour.com, and let's keep pursuing our goals together. Have a great one.